Leaves from a Russian Diary. Pitirim Sorokin. Part 2. 1918. Chapter 14. The Red Mass.
Again in prison. A little too much for one man in 1 year. Revolution takes no account of human sufferings. Well, then, should I bother to complain or repine? Let come what must. For my part, it seemed better to be an optimist and to regard all things from their brighter side. The mental attitude of Voltaire's Candide is sometimes quite convenient. Why, for example, can't I imagine that this prison is a communistic hotel, I myself a traveler, and my feelings similar to those who in freedom read of prison? In fact, I don't know which is better, this prison or a wet stump in the wild forest. I think a bed on the dirty floor of a prison is, after all, rather more comfortable than the wet ground. In order to divert my attention from this harassing problem, I will write these notes. Writing will help me to kill time. As my fate is apparently decided, I need no longer fear being arrested because of what they may read in my diary. The man who is already submerged has no fear of getting wet. In other countries liberty of speech and press exists outside of prisons, in our communistic paradise it exists only in prisons. Therefore, let us now make use of this situation and exercise our rights of a man and a citizen. Perhaps these soiled pages will survive me and fall into the hands of someone. If not, it does not matter. In the cell of the prison in Veliki Ustyug, where I am confined, there are about 30 men. Some of them are known to me. There are 3 students, who took my course in the University of Petrograd, 2 teachers, 3 priests, 2 lawyers, 4 merchants. Most of the others are peasants and workers. The population of Russia outside of prisons is horribly diminishing, but inside of prison walls it is wonderfully increasing. Before the revolution in this prison there were scarcely 30 prisoners, now there are more than 300. In addition there are about 200 in the cloister, which has been transformed into a prison. Is this not striking progress in the direction of freedom? Some of the prisoners are lying in their rags on the floor. Some are sitting and hunting for insects. When I arrived, questions were hurled at me. In what way, why, and when was I arrested? What were the news and prospects for the future? In the usual way, for the usual crime, was my answer.
But we don't know why we were arrested.
Objected some of them. You have been arrested in the name of the revolution. You have been told that the revolution is God, and God cannot be questioned. I spoke in the humorous tone of a prospective gallows bird. Poor fellows! Especially the peasants and workers. The bourgeois, students, lawyers, merchants, and priests know they are imprisoned as hostages, but these laborers cannot understand why they are arrested by the government of the workers and peasants.
What do you think they will do with us?
Ask some of them. Probably you will be liberated very soon. But I did not explain what I meant by this liberation. Let them think they will soon return to their homes, wives, parents, and children. If at the hour of their liberation, instead of the joyful faces of those they love they see the tragic face of death, the final agony will be comparatively short. It takes just an hour to go from here to the place of execution, another hour perhaps, awaiting one's turn to be shot. It is far better to suffer these 2 hours than to live many days and weeks as a man condemned to death. I lighted a cigarette and offered the rest to my fellows, leaving 2 for myself. 2 cigarettes I will keep for a special purpose, to smoke on the way to the execution. It seems a little strange, but human psychology is generally strange. Therefore, my intention is a natural one in this incomprehensible center of human suffering. Here in the prison all is commune. Here exists a real communism more effective than communism introduced by force outside the prison. Food brought to this or that prisoner from outside is divided among all. Here complete equality is recognized. Death is the common fate of all of us. Our standards of life are the same. Inequality exists only as regards psychology and anatomy, and even these differences may be diminished by long imprisonment. Living under these conditions for any length of time would transform anybody into a kind of idiot. Equality in idiotism and death can easily be achieved by the communists. Long life to communistic equality in madness and death. However, in spite of communism and equality, all prisoners are starving. Myself, as well. Many months of starvation have left me permanently hungry. But even this has its compensation. It gives me again a chance to continue my study of the psychology of starvation. I see that under any conditions it is possible to be an optimist. Everything depends upon the point of view. Dinner is served. I am a newcomer, therefore no dinner is prepared for me. However, my fellows invite me to partake of their repast. 1/4 of a pound of bread which bears but slight resemblance to real bread, some hot water with a few potatoes compose dinner, lunch, breakfast, and supper. This ration differs a little from the quantity and quality of calories regarded by physiologists as necessary for a man in the course of a day. But these physiologists are bourgeois physiologists, therefore, their conclusions have no value in a communistic society. I think that for the transformation of sinful capitalists into communistic angels, such a diet is in fact both suitable and effective. Most of my comrades greedily eat their portions at once. Some try very hard to leave a little for the evening. But they cannot. Only for a half hour can they resist the temptation. Their bourgeois habit of satisfying their hunger overcomes their good intentions. Only 4 men in the cell are free from the sin of gluttony. They lie in a corner and pay no attention to the eating. Being in the delirium of typhus, they are unconscious of their environment. Strange thing. My companions not only do not try to keep away from these poor creatures, but rather strive to be near them. My comrades, be careful and keep yourselves farther from the typhus, I warn them. They smile.
It is not so bad to have typhus,
says one. And they all agree. Very strange fellows indeed. Night. My God. I feel as though I shall not be able to keep myself under control. My calmness has disappeared. Perhaps writing will help me to recover myself. About 8 o'clock the people in the cell all went to bed. That is, they stretched themselves out on the floor and became silent. I followed their example. In the silence, and probably because of the insects, to which I have not yet become accustomed, my thoughts and imagination became active. In spite of my desire not to think of my position and of the future, my whole brain insists on thinking of these things. The nature of the inquiry in the Cheka today and the concluding remarks of the examiner did not leave any doubt as to my fate. Though they had no definite evidence of my participation in preparations for the counter-revolution in Archangel, they had suspicions, and my crimes were so numerous that there could be only one decision. I am to be shot. I accepted the sentence quietly, if the term quiet may be appropriate for such an occasion, but only my reason comprehended it, not my whole consciousness. Now, in the dark night, I feel all its dreadful significance. After the prisoners had fallen asleep, the door of the cell suddenly opened and 9 or 10 communists came in. The head of the executioners, a let named Peterson, gruffly commanded.
Petrov, Diakonov, Takmanev, Popov, Sidorov, Konstantinov, put on your overcoats and follow us. No, you don't need to take your things,
he said to the peasants, who, supposing that they were to be freed, wanted to take their property. With pale faces, half-mad eyes, quivering hands, the victims tried to put on their rags. All their movements were feverish. They moved like hypnotized somnambulists. Only 2 of them, the student, Popov, and the peasant, Petrov, kept to some extent their tranquility of mind. They shook our hands, and Petrov said,
"Goodbye forever, my comrades. Don't bear me any ill will. If you come out alive, remember me to my family and give these things to my wife. Overcoat and boots are no longer necessary for me, for my children they may be useful."
He crossed himself and genuflected.
"Goodbye forever."
Popov kissed the other students and me.
Long life to Russia and death to the communistic hangman of the Russian people.
He exclaimed as he started out.
Be silent, rascal,
Roared Peterson, and struck the student's face with his revolver. A tiny stream of blood flowed down the face of Popov.
Long life to Russia and away with the communistic torturers.
Shouted the student again.
Then I will teach you, counter-revolutionary scoundrel,
Said the executioner, pointing the revolver at Popov.
I am not afraid of your revolver. Fire.
1, 2, 3 shots thundered. The student fell. One life destroyed. Horrified silence suddenly fell upon us, but after a few moments it was broken by a wild and purely animal cry, a cry of terror and pain, a roar, a savage groan trailing off into murmurs of dead sadness. Tachmanev fell into a fit of hysterics and writhed with convulsions.
take this body up and follow us,
Ordered Peterson. The executioners and their victims disappeared. Then deep silence in the cell once more. How terrible this silence! And how terrible the pale faces of my comrades and their feverish looks. At last one of the lawyers spoke.
All that has to be shall be.
Said he.
All that must not be shall not be. Let us not think about this.
Then the prisoners began to talk in low tones. A priest was on his knees in a corner, continuing to pray. After some time they went to bed again, but nobody can fall asleep. Death is too near to every one of us for us not to feel its presence. Today was their turn, tomorrow will probably be mine. This everybody thinks. I have tried to visualize my own last moment. Do I fear it? I do not. It is not fear I feel, but a sense of outrage. I picture the way to the hill of execution. The place is well known to me. How many times have I stood on that lovely hill covered with beautiful pines? How often I have enjoyed the splendid view. How peaceful was this sight then, and how terrible it is now. Probably I will be led out with other victims, surrounded by 20 or 30 communists. On the way I shall smoke my 2 cigarettes. I shall have to cross the street near my house where my wife and brother are. Will they feel my last approach? Will their hearts tell them I am near? Perhaps. Perhaps they will come to the road and perhaps I will have the happiness of giving them one last look. In half an hour after that we will arrive at the hill. Then we will be commanded to dig our own graves. I shall refuse to do it. Let the communists themselves dig my grave, if they want to bury me. For my body I have no sentiment. It may lie in a grave or on the top of the ground for all I care. After that they will order us to take off our overcoats and boots, which they will appropriate as their revolutionary perquisites. At last they will make us all stand up. If the number of victims is large, some of us will be obliged to await our turns and to watch the others die. Then will come our turn. They will give the order to fire. I wonder if I shall hear the firing before I lose consciousness. There probably will be a sharp pain, but if they shoot straight all will be finished. If the shooting is bad, it will be necessary to suffer for some time. But do I fear this suffering? Not at all. Why, then, does all my organism, all my soul, all my self protest against this? Why do I feel so upset? Why? Not because I fear, but because I want to live. I want to hear, to see, to experience all the wonders of life. I want to do what I have to do, and so much that I have not yet done. I want to see my friends, and above all, I want to see her, my heart and love. Good God! What must she be living through? My sufferings are nothing in comparison with hers. She will be thinking of me every moment and wondering whether I am alive or dead. She will be wanting to help me, knowing herself to be absolutely helpless, knowing that she may not have a chance even to say goodbye, to give me a last glance, knowing that she may not even see my dead body. All this is too much for anyone. Where is she now and what is she doing? Perhaps she is wandering somewhere around the prison in the hope of seeing me, wanting to know whether I am alive or dead. And my friends? My country? My scientific works? No, I wish to live and I must live. Escape, run, run, run away. But how? I ponder over this matter. But no chance. No possibility. The prison is too closely guarded. The doors are too strong, the walls too high. Impossible. Oh, if it were possible to fall asleep and forget everything. But alas, I cannot. In the cell is half darkness. On the floor are lying many bodies, the flesh of the revolution. Silence. Only from time to time deep sighs and delirious exclamations from the men sick with typhus break the silence. Typhus? I begin to understand why my fellows do not fear typhus. Indeed, it is not so bad to be in a delirium. All is relative in this world. 7 men, young and healthy, though emaciated, were brought in today. Fleeing from Vetluga, after terrible sufferings, having traveled about 1,000 miles, they were caught in the places near which we wandered. Their mothers and relatives, their wives and sweethearts will wait for them in vain. Their lives are over. If not tonight, then tomorrow they will be executed. They know it. 3 of them are silent. Having knelt in a corner, they are praying. This prayer is the last deepest token of life, and the highest and purest manifestation of spirit. Their self is now only spiritual, their eyes see the depth of truth, and their bodies are nothing but garments seen by the others and felt not by them. Good heavens! To whom, or for whose advantage is the destruction of these young men, these strong men, who have not yet lived half their earthly life? Their death is necessary for the happiness of mankind and for the perfect well-being of future generations. I wish I could see these happy generations who will build their happiness on the blood and sufferings of previous generations. I think if they have even elementary morals, they will not dare to be happy. If they can know even any peace, they will be the greatest egotists that ever existed. However, these happy and perfect generations are nothing but an illusion created by the miserable cripples who have never tasted the wonderful beauty, the mysterious miracles, and the endless happiness of real life. This ideal of a perfect world is created by beasts who, holding in contempt every real man's life and happiness, are cloaking their bestial impulses in the garments of sonorous slogans. If among the people there are criminals dangerous for their fellow men, surely they are these ferocious brutes styled saviors and liberators. Stop. I begin to philosophize. This is not quite proper now in this communistic academy of hell. I have been removed from the common prison room into a lonely cell. It seems that my case is approaching its end. Here in loneliness my thoughts are turning still more urgently to the question, to be or not to be. My present behavior, from the behavioristic point of view, I say to myself, is merely an expression of the instinct of self-preservation. For a moment my thoughts are drifting in the direction of scientific curiosity. I begin to analyze my situation, thus stimulating my reactions. I observe my pacing to and fro, my restlessness, my general sensations. It would be interesting now to investigate my physiological processes and to photograph my movements. Probably they are a little unusual. Probably I look now quite unlike myself. I have not seen myself in a mirror for many weeks, but I can imagine how I must look in these rags, unshaved, bloated from starvation, pale, and disordered. Probably not very different from a real idiot. But only for a few moments my attention is concentrated on these scientific problems. Very soon I catch myself in the thought that no scientific processes can have any interest for me now or ever again. Wherefore, since my life is almost finished, I pace to and fro in my cell, listen to voices, from time to time I peer through the little hole in the door and think, and think, and think. About what? I cannot say. My mind is disordered. Through the little hole I hear a whisper.
My friend, how are you?
I look out and see my friend, Zepilov. My God! I exclaim, you also hear.
As you see.
This means that your crossing the red frontier was unsuccessful.
I was caught.
It means
that in a few days I shall be dead. It would be nice if we could be shot together, would it not?
he said that. Then his nightmare was really prophetic. His bad dream was about to come true. God help him. A day or two later the warden told me that my friend had been shot.
He walked out crying,
Long live Russia and real democracy.
and on the wall of his cell he wrote,
The gods are thirsty.
Said the warden. One more valuable life gone. I wish I might see Smilga, Vitishkin, and other Bolshevist leaders whom he saved from arrest, and to whom he gave such generous help. They thanked him then. Murderers. 7 men from Vetluga died tonight. This voracious monster, the revolution, cannot live without drinking human blood. I am still alive. All my preparations are finished. My last letters to my wife and friends are written. My last address to my countrymen, also. They are in the hands of a friend who will forward them when the time comes. In this cell time is passing very slowly. I sleep badly. Each morning I try to read and write, but with little success. Only for a few minutes can I hold my attention to the pages. Beginning at 6 o'clock in the afternoon until midnight I watch and listen feverishly to the sounds and to heavy steps in the prison. This is the time when the red popes of the revolution come for the daily sacrifice to their God. For me, or not. When the steps are gone, I say to myself, it is not yet my turn. Today the door of my cell suddenly opened and the Commissar of Public Instruction came in. I had been told that he was a worker from Petrograd and a comparatively decent man. He carefully closed the door behind him, and in a low voice said to me,
Citizen Sorokin, you are our enemy now, but I remember your lectures for us in the workers' school in Petrograd, before the revolution. Then you gave us a great deal and you really helped the workers.
I fear that I taught you very badly if you, one of my students, are with the communists.
Let us not dispute in vain.
He replied.
In spite of your present views, I think you may be useful to the country as a scientist. We have to do a great deal in the sphere of public instruction, and we have very few men capable of instructing. According to my opinion, such men as you must not be executed.
Well, what do you want from me?
Would you agree to participate in the organization of public instruction if you were saved?
I have worked as an educator for many years and, of course, I am ready to perform this duty now as I understand it ought to be performed, I replied. But I have no reason to think that such activity on my part will not again be regarded as counter-revolutionary.
I cannot deny it. However, I will do my best to save you, though I have no serious hopes. Don't tell anybody about our meeting. Goodbye.
The door closed. An odd little comrade he is, this worker commissar. At any rate, he is a brave man. If his friends in the Cheka should learn of his visit to me, he would soon be in my position. Through the little window of my cell I can see a part of a field beyond the wall of the prison. Many hours I have stood at this window, hoping I might see a friend or my wife, and today I was splendidly rewarded. Standing at the window I suddenly saw her. What happiness! I shouted and waved with my dirty towel to attract her attention, and I succeeded. My poor dear! A few minutes we gazed at each other. That was all we could do, but what happiness! Thanks to heaven! The first anniversary of the Bolshevist Revolution, November 7th, has arrived. Yesterday the Red Priests gave their glutton god an extraordinary feast of human flesh. 12 lives were sacrificed at once. Now we are told that for 3 days there will be no more executions. In the official newspapers this is announced as an amnesty. Well, then, we all have 3 days to live while the revolution is digesting its last heavy meal. After that the god will probably be so hungry that it will demand extra rations. I am back again in the common cell. Why? I do not know. I find many changes. 2 have died with typhus, 1 man was liberated, about 25 others have been liberated on the hill of execution. In their stead, new prisoners, principally peasants, have been brought in. It is the sacred place of revolution, and it ought not to be empty. 3 days of comparative quiet. 3 days passed over. My apprehensions concerning the hangar of the revolution were justified. Today at about 10 o'clock the worshippers of the god of revolution again came for the food. But instead of 3 or 5 men, the average daily portion, they took 16 at once. The high priests of the revolution entered at the moment when the prisoners were praying. But the prayers were rudely interrupted. As usual, the names of the victims were read. All submissively began to put on their overcoats, and to shake our hands. All but one. He did not move, but continued to lie on the floor.
"I will not go,"
said he.
"If you want me, you will have to carry me."
"Then, comrade, perhaps this will make you move,"
said the same Peterson, putting his revolver to the man's head.
"Fire. It is more convenient for me to die here than there,"
stubbornly answered the prisoner.
"As you wish. Carry him out,"
shouted the communist. Again the old terrible silence in the cell. Then 1, 2, 3, 4 shots in the prison yard.
"Great God, do not forget his soul in thy blessed kingdom, give him peace and eternal life,"
prayed an old peasant kneeling and crossing himself. All the prisoners fell on their knees and began to cross themselves.
"We have no help, we have no hopes but you, O Mother of God."
A priest began to sing.
"Help us.
Joined in all the prisoners in full voice.
We have hope in you. We pray to you, we praise you. Don't leave us, poor creatures of the earth."
This was real prayer. Never have I heard such. In the voices echoed all man's love of life, all despair, all suffering, and all belief in the God of helpless human souls.
"Sorokin, put on your overcoat and follow us."
This was the command today of 4 communists who came into our cell. My turn had come at last. Well, I was ready. Only inside of me, I felt as though something had suddenly snapped, and a cold shiver ran through my body. "Courage, my friend, courage," said I to myself. "Noblesse oblige." So with all my courage uppermost, without haste, I shook hands with my fellows. "Goodbye, my friends, goodbye." I went out to the yard of the prison, preceded and followed by my guard.
"Come here."
One of them pointed to the door of the prison office. I entered. A man with a long nose, probably a Jew, invited me to sit down. I sat.
"Is this telegram known to you?"
He stretched forth a bit of paper to me.
"On Thursday N. Tchaikovsky is starting from Vologda by the steamer Ukredidol."
I read. "No, I don't know it."
"Have you received such a telegram?"
"Never."
"Nevertheless, it was addressed to you, was it not?"
"I might with equal justice claim that it was addressed to you,"
"You may persist in denying an evident thing,"
said the inquisitor.
"but it is all in vain. Your participation in the Archangel counter-revolution is known and your sentence has been passed.
If that is final, why trouble me further?
Take him back."
It would be interesting to know just why they keep taking me to that office instead of to the place of execution. Though these interviews may have some meaning for somebody, I should prefer to die without any more of them. They are too exhausting, too nerve-wracking. Congratulations met me in my cell, but they gave me no hope. Today's examination tells me that my drama is approaching its end. The days crawl like lice one over the other. Every night the same summoning of victims to the slaughter. Our suspense grows almost unbearable. It would be easier to walk out to death than to die thus slowly from day to day. It is difficult to keep one's outward calm for weeks together. If one knew that in 2 days, 3, 5. But weeks. It is very difficult even for the bravest. I try to take cold, to contract typhus, anything to hasten the end. All the others, I observe, do the same. There is actually competition among us to get nearest the typhus patients. Some of the men pick lice off the unconscious and dying and put them on their own skins. Today 7 victims. Today 3. Today only 1. Today 9. Death hovers over me but does not touch me yet. Today 3 more. My God! How long will this torture keep up? I am remembering descriptions of the French Terror. This is quite like it. History repeats itself. 67 new prisoners, among them 5 women and 4 children, have just come in. They are peasants of the Nikolsky district, who had the temerity to resist when the communists came to nationalize all their corn, cattle, and other possessions. Artillery and machine guns were sent to the village to put down the revolt. 3 villages were razed and burned, many peasants were killed, and more than 100 arrested. The 67 who joined us here are in horrible plight, arms broken, flesh lacerated, black bruises. The bitter weeping of little children is heard now in our prison. I wonder how long they can live in this hell. If they survive they will be, no doubt, good communists in future. The education of the new generation of communists has begun, and probably will not be soon forgotten. Good God! If the fathers must suffer, why should these sinless little ones be punished? The prison is overcrowded now. Would that the babblers who used to sing revolutionary songs could be with us. We are less crowded today. Most of the peasants have been executed. One of the children is left without father or mother. Also new cruelties are beginning, reminiscent of the last moment reprieve of Mazenev. This afternoon a merchant was led out for execution. He witnessed the shooting of 4 men, and then came his turn.
Tell me where you have concealed your money and I will let you off,
said the Cheka executioner.
I have no money left. All right, then. Fire!
He commanded. The rifles cracked, but the merchant did not fall.
This round was blank,
explained the executioner, smiling.
But I am sure you will not wish a repetition of the experience. You'd better tell me where your money is hidden.
They brought him back to the prison, speechless and half-crazed. In a few hours he was a gray-haired wreck. We have a very interesting new prisoner, the former commissary Kapkov. This man, previously a clerk in the Northwest Transport Company, had been ardent in arresting counter-revolutionaries, but still more ardent in appropriating nationalized wealth, and in the violation of girls and married women.
If you don't come with me for the night, your relatives will all be arrested. If you come they will go free.
Such had been the method of this apostle of the new millennium. It seems that at last he carried his bestiality so far that even his fellows could stand him no longer. In prison he behaves with revolting cowardice. Some of us want to kill him, but we agree that it would be too bad to soil our hands on such a beast. Blessed be this day. For the first time I was permitted to go with some of the others to saw wood on the banks of the Sukona. This great privilege was hitherto permitted to all save myself and 1 or 2 other politicals. In a group of about 60 I went out, heavily guarded. The prisoners greedily picked up from the street cigar ends, cabbage leaves, and rotting potatoes. Some friends recognized me as I passed and hurried to inform my wife and 1 relative. An hour later, at some distance, I saw them, those beings so dear to me. During 2 hours of hard labor I had the bliss of gazing at them. As we filed back to prison we passed close to them. Tears streamed from their eyes. In my rags, unshaven, dirty, prison pale, I must have been a sad sight for them to look upon. Yet I blessed the day that gave me the unspeakable joy of seeing them once more.